All right, good morning. It's Chris, and I just improvised this message from inside of my outdoor office, which is basically a tent out here on a little piece of land. And that's why it's going to look pretty crazy in here. I haven't kept it clean on top because I don't really know how to take care of that, but it's a great product. And anyway, here we go. Howdy, all right, hi, Chris here, and wanted to tell you about the major transition that's taking place for BioIntegrity. In a nutshell, I just spent about 9.5 years doing a research-based action campaign on globally strategic conservation and why it matters. And in the process of doing that, I also was a one-man nonprofit and thinking as what would be the organizational model for an ideal solution to the environmental challenges of our time, but also the necessity and, more importantly, capitalizing on human potential. It's time. It's time to root in a new idea of what reality is based on the limitations of the universe. So, Elon, sorry, bro. It's actually completely unrealistic. It's a bait and switch, I think, the Mars thing. 1 million people on Mars. That really fascinated me. And that led to kind of a multi-pronged second phase for BioIntegrity. First phase was globally strategic conservation. The second phase was, what is the value of biodiversity to modern human beings? And it turns out that modern human beings can only live as modern human beings if biodiversity continues to thrive. And it's going down fast. We've destroyed 70% of the scale of it. It's contracted now because we've expanded our concrete and our pipelines and so forth. And if we take this any further, which is inevitable at the moment, then our lives will be, apparently, destroyed outdoors within our lifetimes, Gen X, in the next 30 years. On the other hand, the most reliable thing, literally in the known universe, is this composition that biodiversity is creating for us, known as the biosphere, the planetary biosphere. Phase 2 focused in the value of biosphere Earth, the other life, and the composition of the planetary biosphere, which is incredibly, amazingly awesome. And sort of this question related to Elon and planet Earth. What's the history of life here? How long did it take to get to where we are now? Well, more than 4 billion years. And how easily is it to replace, and what does it do for us? And it provides everything for us. It is impossible to replace in any realistic time scale. The life on our planet is the composition of the life support system of our planet. And your body is a biosphere. It contains other life. It has other life on it, in it, to process your food, protect you from disease, move, I'm sure, moisture and oils and so forth, all kinds of materials over your skin. Like, it's part of how you stay healthy. As your body, as an organism in its own right, is constantly interacting with other species at the microbial level. Any level beyond that is a different kind of thing, but the microbial level is fascinating, and we really don't understand it. To give you one sense of how fascinating it is, just your gut contains something like 7 or 8 billion organisms, about as many as there are humans on Earth today, if you have a normal, modern human gut that's healthy. Anyway, biosphere Earth is the only known planetary biosphere. And the planetary biosphere took billions of years to form at its current state in that number of years. It iterated on its own in different ways. So the idea that we're going to go to another planet and find a human-friendly planet is not realistic. The idea that we're going to go to Mars and be able to regenerate what's on Earth is not realistic, because Mars lacks resources for that, starting with planetary temperature, but also including carbon. That's an important one. Oh yeah, and water. Not enough water and carbon on Mars to create a planetary biosphere. Oh, there's no atmosphere. You know, it's a totally insane thing. Oh, we'll put a big dome up on Mars. That'll just take a week or two, I'm sure, to install. Oh, we don't know how to land on Mars. It goes on and on and on and on. The holes in that project. Looks great on a computer, though. Anyway, so back to Earth. All of the life support system services that we love and depend on come from the composition and the interrelationships of other life. It's not a environmentalist thing to say we are 100% interdependent with other life. As I was saying, your body is a biosphere. Your local landscape that you're inside of at every scale is a biosphere. Everything assumes this interrelationship, which you can make religious. It's certainly fascinating and interesting about tissue and the analogy of ecosystems and landscapes and waterways, waterscapes being like tissue on your body. So for instance, I've got a cut on my hand. I've been doing a lot of outdoor work this week. This thing's going to heal, no problem, probably by Monday. I don't have to put Neosporin or a Band-Aid. It'll take care of it. I don't have anything to do with it up here. This person is not in charge of his body most of the time in terms of all the functions that are taking place. I'm just relying on it, right? And so my body is seeking unity. It's going to heal itself. I see that in ecological functionality, and that is because of the other life on Earth that you're not going to find anywhere nearby in the universe. So this is it. This is our place. With that in mind, okay, how good can we do? Well, how far can we go? What's the human potential? And that is the apex of BioIntegrity 2.0 on the biosphere. Now, quick bit of story. I had hoped to take BioIntegrity into phase 3 being about organization building, really on those two pieces. And interestingly, I'm based in Central Texas, in Austin and Dripping Springs, and the land between those areas, where it's just about the fastest growing part of Texas, maybe. And we've got big money coming in, developer money coming in, not just property owner folks. They're acquiring property with ideas of how it needs to be pruned and curated. We're also at the edge of extreme drought still in Central Texas, coming into the spring and rains and so forth. The lands here are so dry, the trees here are so dry, that people think the best thing to do is cut the trees, and it's not. The best thing to do is to put moisture retention at the base of the trees on the downward slope side so that it catches it, and keep the infrastructure. We don't get rain without the infrastructure. Cedar trees are important in the winter. Deciduous trees are important in the summer, is how people should think of it. You lose one, you're going to be in trouble. And we're taking down cedar because people believe it's bad, and it's not bad. It's essential. The system itself is trying to sort of recompose, I think probably back to what it was just a couple of hundred years ago, which is not that diverse necessarily, but clumps of density. And we're taking out those clumps that take decades to grow. 200 years ago, they say that the forests and the woodlands and the so-called hill country of prairie, which would be wooded grassland, was 5 times denser and lusher than it is today. We had trees perhaps 100 feet tall that were cedars and so forth, cut for shingles and railroad ties and just shipped out of here. And now we're looking at an eroded landscape. thinking that's the normal landscape, and it's not. It should be greener, it should be moister, lusher. We can rebuild that quickly. And if we don't, this extreme drought is going to spread, and we'll have more fire damage, more limb loss, more costs, so forth. We'll see natural beauty fade away and have a hard time recovering because of the global warming problem, the globally strategic issue can be dealt with by solving the locally strategic issue. And so that begins phase 3. Now, let me sideline that real quick as well. I've started a project called Rainmaking with Trees. That's real. I'm not nuts. I've done well over 50 projects. I've documented 50 of them. 25 of them are in the 2022 notes. I'll get the 2023 notes posted as soon as possible. Most of that's in video form. But that project doesn't work without trees. And I'm hearing out here in this area, as we speak, at not quite 8 a.m., trees being cut all the time. Again, people think it's what they're supposed to do. And I guess it feels like a very important expression of wealth, achievement, to curate your landscape the way you like it. Great. And not great. Because again, without these vital organisms, we lose rain. We lose water retention when it rains. And we lose the ability for the landscape to interact with the atmosphere and manage extreme weather conditions. We become more vulnerable to extreme weather, temperatures, storms, damages. We leave them there and grow more, we go the other way. We solve the local issue that everyone's most concerned about only by protecting the infrastructure itself of the trees. In a culture that is rooted in thousands of years of tree cutting, it dates back to at least, I believe, around 10,000 BC in terms of human mythology and legend, that trees are cut because human beings can make a life, make a structure, and sort of conquer the world by conquering the forest. The only problem is now there's 8 billion of us, and we're buying more and more saws, and we're cutting more and more stuff down that's like taking off the limbs of our body in terms of the biosphere's ability to circulate moisture, to maintain homeostasis, which is to say temperate climate. So if we go the other way and strengthen local infrastructure and regrow and integrate local infrastructure, this is essentially what we're protecting at the global scale. Phase 1 was about tropical forests being the most important biospheric climate and economic resource on Earth. Phase 2 is about looking at Earth as a life support system composed of other life, not human beings. We're living on top of it, inside of it, drawing out of that bank. And now we need to begin making it abundant. Phase 3 then is, okay, switching horses slightly. Instead of focusing on organization building, BioIntegrity and Chris are going to be about locally strategic drought prevention. It especially makes sense because right now here in Central Texas, again, we're still in bad drought conditions and we're going into summer. And so what I'm doing now is starting a campaign called 200 Trees. I'm also going to start talking more and more as Chris, less as the voice of BioIntegrity. And so the new campaign, 200 Trees, is going to reach out to 10 neighborhoods in Central Texas and donate 100 tree sponges per neighborhood. It's going to be a heart-to-heart, eye-to-eye, person-to-person campaign. We're hoping that each of these 10 neighborhoods will go to 200 trees total install. I've done, in getting started in this neighborhood, I've already done 95 trees this week, and I had intended to do 30 or 25. And so the good news is the economics are working out as we're sort of sorting this out. I've been able to move 4 tons of material or something like that, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And man, it's amazing. It's fun. I think this is the CrossFit people really want. And we are, because we're cutting and because we're just, making so much biological waste, we have an abundance of materials that we can use and that we're not using yet to make the landscapes lusher all over the world, but especially right now here in Central Texas, where we've got great composting programs with Dillo Dirt and some really great providers for this kind of work. So 200 trees. This is our chance now to firmly root in reality that the biosphere, the composition, soil itself is this fascinating story of how somewhere in the range of 2 billion years ago, algae began to form. And that slowly kind of stuck onto the land and somehow learned to ooze up onto the land, to climb. 1 billion years ago, maybe? That, there's evidence now of, they believe, fungal life on land, I believe 1.1 billion years ago. So fungal life has to have material to be inside of, to create. It's, it has to be hosted. The material that precedes that, the soil itself, is the detritus of life, your actual organism that has absorbed carbon in physical form and is now sitting on rock. And it decays into dry matter and moist matter. And somehow the microbial life around it can consume that to then continue to reproduce, to make more life, and it just stacks up, until eventually, you've got micro life living in the soil. Sort of the idea of like tiny little bugs. And this is all, hundreds of millions of years of accumulation just into the soil. And then finally, somewhere around 600 million years ago, you start to get the first plants and animals in the scientific record. These first plants and animals were small and freaky looking, kind of identical, maybe 670 million years ago. I haven't looked at this stuff in a while, and there's so many dates. But anyway, roughly speaking, 600-ish million years ago. And then dinosaurs emerge, within a couple of rises and falls of the total life support system, meaning there's an extinction, and when it rises again, the blossom that opens the next time is even more biodiverse and more earth covering in density because of this detritus accumulation on land. It's fascinating, and it changes your concept of sort of what death is. You could think of your own body as moving the biospheric paradigm forward. Whether we like it or not, all this destruction that we're doing, if we take ourselves out and the other species around us, which is certainly possible with nuclear, and we're getting close with creating real food situation problems, which is why the billionaires are buying bunkers and all this stuff. Bill Gates is buying agricultural land. If we have food crises here in the developed world like they have all the time in the developing world, then we could really see a die back in total human population because of the types of conflicts and the types of armaments that humans have. So in the process of that, we've all seen what war does. Look at the Holy Land. It's just obliterated by these wars and turned into bare rock. The Fertile Crescent lands that were vital 2,000 years ago and have been consumed into nothingness. So we have the ability to do that for sure, and we're doing that for sure. So we don't want to do that for sure. We want to go the other way. We want to be as abundant as possible for sure. And again, capitalize, maximize human potential on Earth for sure. This is really, really the culture that we need to understand. Not the negative voice, but the positive voice. What's the best we can do here for ourselves today and our future together? That's not hippie stuff. That's necessity stuff. Whether you're red, right, left, blue, brown, who cares? This has never been the issue. It's always been that we were lucky enough to be inside of a system so abundant that we could choose to love or hate and destroy and mythologize and narrativize everything. Now we get to blend and integrate and move forward with our amazing whatever technology, but give it the right values. Not just profit, abundance, solving the sort of crises of our times. The computers are going to tell you what I'm telling you. It's going to require ecology and biosphere, not technology and electricity. To do that, moisture over landscapes. I can show with rainmaking with trees how valuable ecosystems are. The problem is, this summer we could lose more than people really understand. And I think the better way to flip the potential loss paradigm and downward spiral paradigm is to now implement this tree sponge thing as fast as possible, get people going on it. Because what it will show you is that if you spend a few dollars and a few minutes building a sponge onto your landscape by your biggest trees, and in general your vegetation, on that downward slope to catch water as it rolls downhill, I'm the tree, then that tree will recharge its heartwood again and again and again and again when there's a life system grown between the moisture bank and the life in the soil underground and that root ball. You've got a continuing loop of benevolent pre-human knowledge and life on how to survive, how to thrive, how to live. Trees, of which we share 50% of the same DNA, trees are roughly 300 million years old. Cro-Magnon humans like us are believed to be maybe 200,000 years old, definitely 50,000 years old. 300 million versus 50,000. So we come out of that genetic lineage. It already knows how to survive through thick and thin. And right now we're in an ideal setting for the abundance of the life support system. If we solve today's global crisis, we will stabilize the planet, which supposedly won't have a problem with the sun for tens of thousands of more years. To get to another planet and live on another planet, that's tens of thousands of more years, just in travel time. I think we just lost Voyager 1, I believe. We're losing contact with it, and it's not even a 30th of the distance that you have to travel to get to the next potentially viable planet for life of any type as we know it, which is to say in the Goldilocks climate, in the temperate climate. So this is it. If we do the right things locally and globally strategically, we will see life restore in an abundant way. If we take our technological mind, our weapons and fortress and development and technology and speed and materialism and acquisition minds and integrate into that the best of what the wilderness really is, what the biosphere really is, the natural ecosystem and the natural ecological system's abilities, to create these beautiful, lush, green havens for us. Then we got something, and I call that biospheric reformation. So great, we got windmills and solar panels, and now China's got better, cheaper electric cars. It's not solving really any of the core issues there that are about the future of our lives together on Earth. It's just sort of reducing one little aspect on the bigger concern, which is degradation of the life support system's ability to support civilization. The Amazon is on fire. The Amazon wetlands have been on fire for 2 years. Canada's been on fire for over a year. These things are not supposed to happen. Oh, and the Great Barrier Reef is bleaching again. If you're looking for biblical scale indicators or cataclysmic indicators that we need to literally change what we're doing and stop holding on to our money so much, then, you know, those are the signs that you have waited for. They're here. 10 million acres of Australian forest gone in 2020. That's the real thing. That's the real crisis. That's the movie come to earth, to life, to real life. So it's time to change for real. You know, apocalypse actually means sort of taking the scales off of your eyes as a society and seeing how bad it is, the way that you're living, which we're doing. That's what all the social justice movements are about on all sides of all lines, from gender to politics to even white entitleism. These people think they're doing religious nationalism. These people think they're doing the best thing for everybody by being tyrannical. The reality of a biosphere, your body, is that it's not tyrannical. It's integrated. It's interactive genius. Your body is a genius, so you're a genius. Your body is unique. No one has this nose, these lips, or this, face. But all of us are incredibly beautiful. Each thing in the living reality that we share is irreplaceable. Every moment, everything is somehow underappreciated for its magnificence in civilization. And being biospherically connected brings that back. It doesn't mean you have to nerd out on it all the time like I like to. It just means you sort of live in relationship with the awareness of all these other beautiful organisms around you. The birds tweeting now. And strive to bring that into our shared world, because necessarily that's what's best for us. That's what keeps Gatlinburg, Tennessee from catching on fire. That's what keeps Mexico City from running out of water. That's what makes the desertification in China stop and go the other direction. What's the opposite of desertification? Biospherication, the abundification of life, the restoration of ecological potential. And again, we have all the materials we need. It's not a hard problem to solve. Unlike going to Mars, where you would have to ship, a third to a half of all the materials you need from Earth to Mars to make an Earth. On Earth, we have the materials. It is time to stop shipping our human biological wastes, from coffee cups to poop to sawdust, into landfills, oceans, but instead put them onto landscapes, especially in the ways that we're doing with 200 trees. And so I guess that's a detailed and circuitous way to describe what this new phase is about. It's about rainmaking with trees, but that's not the focal point of the activity right now. The focal point of the activity is showing people the value of tree care rather than tree pruning, and letting it grow, bringing carbon into the landscape, bringing more beauty into the landscape, making moisture retention culture here now. So 200 trees, 10 neighborhoods in Central Texas. Realistically, by the end of the year, if it's just me pushing it, but if we can build a little bit of local support with some teams, then we could get 10 neighborhoods by the end of July. We need them to be a few in Austin. We've got a couple outside of Austin, and then we need to focus on Central Texas, sort of further south in the Kerrville area and so on and so forth, and see what can be done there, where it's even drier and drought is more extreme. Anything done there benefits everybody upstream in the passive wind cycle, through Austin to Waco, all the way up through Dallas to Oklahoma, where the vegetation sort of goes along I-35. If we can help in the driest areas now, then that helps these other areas. If we can show people the value of keeping the infrastructure and taking better care of it now, then we change the world, hopefully by the end of the year, because this will be part of the conversation on what makes sense today. Regardless of who's elected, regardless of where our stocks go, we can actually take the action we need one by one and make super impactful difference, each of us, for incredibly low cost today. And so let's get it started. 200 trees, BioIntegrity, and a little more of me talking my head off. I'm going to start a new podcast called Other Life. That's going to be this guy, this tone of voice. If you're someone who's interested in a thinker on the biosphere, then join me for that. If you're someone who wants to make sure your trees are saved, give me a call. And if you're someone who wants to make sure that we avoid wildfire and reverse the drought in Central Texas and around the world as rapidly and as intelligently as possible, then give BioIntegrity a call. Come see what we're doing, and let's make the future as good as we possibly can.
It's raining.
I jumped out of the truck and got thunder. This is the Grove of Six. He's trying to get back now. Thanks for watching.